Welcome back to Pace Immigration, paceimmigration.com, talking with Michael O'Rourke and Rachel Brown. Good to see you both.
Good to see you too.
Hey, Sean, how's it going?
It's going very well, thanks. Talking today about immigration options for Nigerians. Rachel, you spend a ton of time in Nigeria. You've helped a bunch of people out in their immigration needs. Michael, you're the expert on U.S. immigration. We're going to talk a lot about that today as well. Let's jump right in. When we were talking about this before we came on the air, we were talking about the amount of people that email from Nigeria or call from Nigeria, or Rachel, that you meet in Nigeria that want to immigrate. And I just pulled up this factoid here. According to a report by the African Polling Institute last year, 7 in 10 Nigerians would be willing to go abroad if they had the resources. Rachel, a lot of people in Nigeria do want to immigrate. Is that right?
That's 100% correct. I was in Nigeria just a few months ago, and I spent just 2 weeks. And I tell you, I met almost 100 people. It was back to back. You
Wow.
could tell people just, they want to travel. They want to come to Canada. Some are very much interested in the United States. And I had little or no time to sleep, And I wonder why. I asked a few people, what is the, why so much? Why is everybody looking to leave Nigeria, to travel out? And most of the people that I spoke to, they all had the same thing to say: stability,
Right.
security, the best education for their kids. They want a place that is safe, and they want a place that is secured. And most especially, they also want to do business, Having a dual citizenship is beneficial from every angle. They're not packing up shop 100% to leave Nigeria, but they're creating opportunities for themselves and for their family members. And since COVID, the number have tripled, if not even quadrupled, And a lot of people are looking, we have to expand, we have to diversify, not just our investment, but also our residency and citizenship as well. So it is there. It is very much obvious.
Right. And I pulled up a few facts as well when I went digging around for some information to put some hard numbers behind the anecdotal evidence that you have from talking to people, obviously. The inflation rate has spiked over 20% there right now. Unemployment rate after COVID, which hit them hard, is around 30%. And as you're saying, everything boils down to stability. And here we have food prices, healthcare access, corruption are growing concerns. So people want a stable environment in which to live.
Yes.
And those things on offer can be found, for the most part, in the United States and Canada. Obviously, Nigerians have had success in Canada and the United States. A couple of more numbers, and then we can get into some good conversation. We have the number of Nigerians who gained permanent residency in Canada in 2021 almost tripled the total from the previous 2 years. And Michael, for your U.S. stuff, Nigeria is the largest source of African immigration to the United States. So I thought we would take it one by one. Rachel, obviously you'll take the 4 on the Canadian stuff, but I'd like to hear from both of you about this. Immigration to Canada, we've covered why people want to come. The question then becomes, of course, how can they come? And Rachel, maybe you could talk about some of that. Maybe start off with business and work stuff.
Oh yes, there are various ways people can move to Canada. Canada, we offer over 60 various types of immigration programs. From being a student to being a business person, there are all sorts of ways to move into Canada. Most of these programs are for people who are in Canada. Very few are for people who are abroad. But there are certainly programs that are open to any and all persons who are looking to come to Canada. Take note, before COVID, things were easy and smooth going. But since COVID and since the borders have been opened, you can find employment. A lot of positions were vacant here in Canada, and they're looking for people to fill up those vacancies. And remember, Canada is the second largest country in the world. We have the landmass, we've got the space. We've got employers looking to employ people, and we need people to be here. The government, really, the focus is for people who are eager, looking to work, people who have the energy and the drive. The target is people between ages 18 to 35 years and people who will create jobs for those people. So if the person is between anywhere looking at from 18 years and above, first of all, coming in as an international student is an option. Because when you complete your program here in Canada, you have an option to stay back. You have an option to gain Canadian experience, and as a result, apply for permanent residence, which will eventually lead to citizenship. Meaning you're here, you've acquired the education, you've acquired the work experience, you're used to Canadian society, and you're giving back, you're working, and you become a citizen. That doesn't mean you're abandoning your home country. It just means you created more opportunities for yourself. So being a student helps. You can come in through the bachelor's program, through the postgraduate program, through a master's program. It's open. It's not, there is no limit to it. So that's an option. For those people who have successfully completed your studies, they can also come in as skilled workers. That's what Canada is looking for. People who would work, who've got the necessary skills and experience to work. And most people fall under the Express Entry program. You know, it's a points-based system where the more points you accumulate, the better chances you have of being, you know, issued an invitation to apply for permanent residence. The government, they select people based on 6 factors: your education, your work experience, arranged employment in Canada, your language, adaptability, your age. You know, the government, they look at all these factors to determine, do we need this person here in Canada? And if you do fall into all of the requirements, you meet all the requirements, then yes, you're eligible to apply. For those people who may be eligible to apply but do not meet the scores to be selected to apply for permanent residence, going through a provincial nominee program, it's an option. So with respect to the provincial nominee programs, every province in Canada, they have an agreement with the federal government for jurisdiction over immigration, you know. So the federal government is the only body who can issue permanent residency, citizenship, and the like, but the provinces can decide who they want to reside in their province. And every province they have needs, you know, to fill in spaces, and they decide whether or not they want an applicant. So if someone, for example, has indicated in his or her profile to the skilled worker program, the Express Entry program, that they want to immigrate to Canada but do not meet the points to be selected, they may very well qualify to apply through one of the provincial nominee programs. You know, Manitoba is a great province, same as Saskatchewan. The reason why I mentioned those 2 provinces is because a lot of Nigerians are going over there. With the Manitoba program, as long as you have a family or a friend who is going to help you adapt when you arrive, you can apply to the program. It's straightforward. For Saskatchewan, having a family member helps. It adds points to your overall score. But the fact that you just want to immigrate to Saskatchewan, it's a plus. For the other provinces, you need a job offer, meaning you apply to an employer, they'll offer you a job, and you go through a process of getting a labor market opinion from the Employment and Social Development Canada. So it's a longer process getting the job offer. But if you just want to immigrate to Saskatchewan or Manitoba, yes, it is very much open. Ontario is what they call hot cake. Everybody wants to be in Ontario. But the window for the provincial nominee program is so slim. You know, the government will open up the program for 2 weeks, and in less than 10 hours, it is all filled up. So a lot of people go through the Saskatchewan or the Manitoba program if they're doing the provincial nominee program. And for those people who do not fall under any of those categories, not the student route, no job offer, no provincial nominee, no express entry, an option is the business program. You know, they can very much come to Canada and establish a business. The government, they like it when, you know, there is international or global components to it. That's one of the reasons why they set up the Startup Visa program. You know, it's a program that is open to anyone with innovative business idea. And your business idea must be capable of operating globally. So you can, as long as the business will succeed in Canada, it should succeed in the United States, it should succeed in Africa, wherever you find yourself, it should succeed. That's what you're looking for. You know, there is not like the Quebec program where you have to demonstrate a whole ton of application documentations to support your work. It's pretty straightforward. As long as you have an innovative business and your business idea is capable of operating on a global scale. Those are the 2 key requirements for the program. There are other requirements, but those are the 2 key requirements. And it's pretty straightforward. So there are options open to anyone, from being a student to being a worker, to seeking for a job, you know, to setting up a business. All sorts of programs are open. It's just a matter of taking advantage of it.
So people need to contact you, obviously, with what do you suggest? I mean, should people already have knowledge about these programs, and then they'll tell you, hey, I want to be part of the Startup Visa program, or I want to do this, or should they just come to you and say, let's talk, and you can kind of guide them towards the right way to go?
Usually I prefer when they contact me and we have a conversation, because a potential client, for example, may have his or her mind fixed on a particular program, but that may not be the best option for him or her. So when we have the conversation, we go through the entire person's background. We look at their resume. We look at what they've done. We look at what exactly is their interest. What do you hope to get out of this? And we're in a better position to guide the applicants to the right program that is best for him or her. Not everybody know about all the programs, right? But when they speak with us, then they have a better understanding, and they're put in a position where they can make informed decision of the way forward. Because immigration pretty much is changing lives. We're touching lives, we're changing lives, all for the better. So it's not something we take lightly. We make sure it is important to us. I was an immigrant myself. I moved down from Nigeria here some 12 years ago. So I understand exactly what someone is going through. I've gone through the entire process, from studying in Canada to looking for work to applying to the provincial nominee program. So I've done it all. Permanent resident citizenship. I've done it all. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. So we hear them out, we listen to them, what it is they're interested in, and we're in a position to guide them accordingly. That's what we do.
Okay. By the way, did you say Ontario was a hot cake? Was that what I heard? We're gonna find out from Michael in a second if there's a hot cake state. I guess I know that you go. Hey, you know what? That's an interesting segue, because I know you both like hot cakes because you visited the Waffle House on your recent trip, business trip to Houston, where the pancakes are fantastic. So, Michael, maybe we should move on to talking about, while we've got some time, the U.S. angle. One thing that struck me while Rachel was talking is the word program comes up a lot. So this program for this program for this program for that. You don't tend to hear the word program much when it comes to U.S. immigration. You more hear about, it seems much more individualistic, much more concentrated on visas. What say you?
Yes, that's exactly the case, Sean. The U.S. doesn't have many limited term programs where they emphasize a certain type of immigration at a certain time period. Maybe the best program that's currently out there is for high net worth individuals. It's called the EB-5, and they can invest $800,000 or $1,050,000 into. It depends on the area, but that is a program that has been reauthorized by Congress so that investors can come to the United States and ultimately get a green card. But in general, U.S. immigration is more focused on three areas: either students coming in, either at the undergraduate or graduate level. There are work permissions that are allowed both during the educational program and afterwards, so that a person who has gotten experience can work for a period of time in the United States afterwards. That's called OPT. I would be remiss as a U.S. immigration lawyer if I didn't throw out acronyms every few seconds. So
alphabet soup. Yeah.
Exactly, it is our alphabet soup.
Yeah.
So F1 visas for undergraduate or graduate studies, and then OPT for working afterwards, especially if you're in a STEM field, STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths. You can get up to 3 years of work permission following your degree program.
Right now, I'm sorry, Michael, just while we're on the thing of the study permits, in Canada, it seems a study permit is a pathway to permanent residency and then ultimately citizenship. Does it work that way in the United States?
Not exactly.
Right.
Unfortunately, in Canada, we have the postgraduate work permit, which allows a student who's finished the program to get a certain amount of Canadian work experience, and then they're able to file a application as a express entry candidate under the Canadian experience class, so that it's a fairly smooth pathway into permanent residence for a lot of students.
Right.
In the United States, you can use your OPT to make and find a relationship with an employer. If that employer then decides to sponsor you for a green card using either the perm process, or if you go in as a manager and you've had experience abroad with the company as a manager, then you could try the multinational manager green card pathway as well. But it's not as direct of a pathway as it is for for Canadian students.
Right. Let's talk about that EB-5, because I know you were both down there. You were meeting with a client. Of course, we're not going to say who the client was, but you were meeting with a client talking about EB-5 considerations. Maybe I'll start with you, Rachel, come back to you, Michael. Rachel, how much are you hearing in Nigeria about interest with the EB-5, or is it relatively unknown there, or is it quite well known?
Well, it's a special class of people who consider the EB-5 because you need to have very deep pockets to do so. Like Michael mentioned, the new investment amount is a minimum of $800,000 US. Depending on the option you go, it could be higher. So for you to be discussing an EB-5 application with me in the first place, first of all, you must have the pockets and you must have had some, information about the program to say, okay, it's something I want to consider. Because if you don't have the money, there's no point, having a conversation with me in the first place, right?
Right.
So it's not a huge number of people. It's a special class of people,
Right,
whom
Michael.
I have conversations with.
Michael, when you talk about, so let's say someone does have the means to use the EB-5, what can they expect out of that? What are we talking about? Time limits? What do they have to invest in? That kind of thing.
Sure. There are two streams within the EB-5. There's direct investment into a business, or there is investment in a regional center, which is more of a passive investment. And there's a requirement that so many U.S. jobs are created, or jobs for U.S. people. And the timelines now are quite high. I think the initial EB-5 petition is taking up to 5 years to be approved. I think that's an extreme case, but that's what we're currently seeing. And then if somebody is granted EB-5, the petition is granted, then they either have to go through the adjustment of status process if they're already in the U.S., or apply for an immigrant visa at a U.S. consulate abroad. And this, again, could add another 16, 18, 22, 24 months. So it is not a fast process.
So, I mean, on the whole, we've got Canada, we've got the United States. Obviously not everyone's a millionaire that's immigrating to the United States through something like the EB-5. At the same time, and what I'm saying is it sounds difficult to immigrate to the United States, but at the same time, Nigeria makes up the nation that sends the most immigrants from Africa to the United States. People are getting there somehow. So, Michael, what are the streams that you find are the easiest access, I guess?
Sure. So I think the two easiest access, other than study visas, the easiest way is if you've met an American person of your dreams and you start a relationship, and it is a bona fide relationship that you can prove, then there are fiancé visas to come over and get married. You can get married anywhere in the world that recognizes the relationship. So for like same-sex couples, you cannot get married in Nigeria, but you could get married in South Africa or in the Netherlands or in the US or Mexico. If there is definitely a stream of spousal immigration. And then the other family-based stream is through petitions filed by U.S. permanent residents or citizens having roots in Nigeria who are looking to bring over spouses, sons, daughters, other relatives. Depending on the class of relative, there's a vast difference in time that might take, but that family immigration pathway is definitely a very popular way of coming to the United States. I do work with that, but I also do work with companies. Say you've got a brilliant computer engineer and who's doing something innovative. You might be able to get an O1 visa for them for an extraordinary ability. If you have a degreed professional and your company finds a great Nigerian candidate, can always apply for an H-1B. Another very popular route that I do a lot of work in is intercompany transfer. So if you have a company that's well established in Nigeria, say you decide to open up a subsidiary in the United States, and then you can transfer either managers or specialized knowledge folks into the United States. And then there are pathways to green cards from there as well. So those are pretty much the main routes that I see.
Right. Rachel, talk about the spousal and the family stuff. I know you get that question a lot, that someone has a brother or a sister or a father that's maybe immigrated to Canada, and now they're talking about bringing people from the old country into Canada. I mean, talk about that process. Is it a simple process? Does it take a long time? I know there's even like words like lottery that we use for some of this stuff. How does it work?
Yeah, with respect to the Canadian side of things, when it comes to sponsoring family members, there are different class of persons you can sponsor. You can sponsor your spouse. You can also sponsor your kids, as long as the kids are under the age of 22. You know, the lottery you mentioned is for the parental sponsorship program, where Canadian citizens or permanent residents who are over the age of 18 would demonstrate to the government. First of all, it's by creating an expression of interest to say, I want to sponsor my parents here. And if your parents got dependent kids who are under the age of 22 years, then yes, they can be part of the application. If you've got a sibling who's over the age of 22, you know, you can't sponsor your sibling. You can't even sponsor your sibling in the first place, except that person is either a lonely family, you or a lonely Canadian citizen here, meaning you're the only person, you don't have any family members here, and your sibling is abroad, and that particular sibling is the only surviving sibling of yours who's abroad. Then you can sponsor your sibling. But a lot of people, they go through the spousal route as well as the parental sponsorship. The spousal route is bringing in your spouse into Canada. You know, you're here, your spouse is abroad. You want your spouse to be permanent resident, then yes, you can sponsor the spouse. It's pretty straightforward. As long as you can show that you're not on welfare and you're working. It doesn't matter what kind of job you're working and you make money off your job. Even though it's the minimum paid work, it's fine. You know, you can sponsor your spouse. If you're working abroad and your spouse is also abroad, before your application will be approved, you have to demonstrate that you're moving back to Canada, or that you will move back to Canada before the file is granted, because your spouse is coming as a permanent resident to join you. So you have to be here for your spouse to be here as well. You know, so those are the key ways, the two ways most people sponsor their family members into Canada, through the spousal sponsorship application or through the parental sponsorship application. And it's pretty straightforward.
Canada, the U.S. Michael, I'll put it to you first. I mean, I know it matters. You always do this to me. It depends on the case. It depends on the details. But, you know, if someone was neutral, what's the path of least resistance, maybe?
Well, Sean, it depends. I had to get you. So, you know, it really, does depend.
I know, yeah.
There are so many factors when it comes to looking at this, and really, the person who wants to come to North America, where are they going to thrive? Are they going to come to the hot cake of Ontario or the hot cake of Houston, Texas? Right. Which I was really surprised to learn has probably over 100,000 Nigerians living in it. And there are Nigerian nightclubs and restaurants, and it was really Rachel brought me into a different world.
That's
so
amazing.
I had to take her to Waffle House just to kind of balance the scales.
Okay.
But it really depends where they're going to thrive, where the opportunities also present themselves. So, you know, for instance, you might get an athletic scholarship from a U.S. college, but Canadian colleges don't tend to give athletic scholarships. So maybe if you're a student looking at as a way to come over, that's a consideration. Maybe your business that you have in West Africa is going to do better, say, in the oil sands in Alberta or in the oil patch around Beaumont, Texas, versus your business that might do better in Montreal selling, I don't know, boutique Frenchy things. I don't know. But it really depends on how you see your plan developing. And that's one of the first questions I'll almost always ask my clients is, what's your goal? What's your plan? Even those that don't really have an idea that maybe they've really talked about concretely yet, they still have a vision. And that's what we try and work with.
Yeah, maybe that's the homework for people watching this, you know, before making contact. Think about what your real goal is. And I know the two of you, Rachel and Michael, all you want is honesty, right? Like, you just want people to tell you what's their goal, where do they want to be, and just be honest about it, and then you'll be able to guide them the most effectively. Rachel, what do you want to see when people first make contact? What do you want to hear?
first, when you contact me, I want to see your resume, because I need to learn more about what you've done in the past to be able to have a conversation with you. When you call me and you're asking me, so how can I come to Canada? I don't know anything about you. I don't know nothing really about you. So asking you over the phone, so tell me about yourself, what you've done, how many kids do you have, what you're interested in. By seeing a resume from a potential client, it helps a lot. It already gives me an idea of what program is best for this person, and having the person speak with me and providing more information then will properly guide me to say, okay, I've considered your resume, and after speaking with you, this is my opinion, right? And that's how I would start. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think we've come full circle in the sense that it really is about you. You were both saying that it's about changing lives. And
Right.
It's about people's lives. And so the more you can learn about the person talking to you, the more effectively you'll be able to guide them. I'd like to thank you both for talking. We're going to talk about this in the future, I'm sure. Rachel, I know at the time that we're recording this, you're leaving for Nigeria in about a month, but I'm not worried about that getting old, because you're leaving for Nigeria all the time. So I mean, no matter when we record this, you're going to be going to Nigeria. So be sure to contact Rachel at rbrown@pacelawfirm.com, and she'll be able to assist you in Nigeria or elsewhere. And of course, we've got Michael O'Rourke at mo'rourke@pacelawfirm.com. Thank you both, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Sean.